And welcome back to Racing, Pacing, Chasing. This is episode 12. My co-host next to me, I'm Aaron Bain, and my co-host Rocky Butterworth. Welcome, Rocky.
Welcome, mate.
I'm back this week.
You are.
I'm back on the show. You stood in for me, and now Claire's out, and you're in.
I know. Come musical change all the time.
Musical chairs at RPC, but it's the way we operate. So I'm back. But thanks for joining us to our regular viewers and those still continuing to jump on board week in, week out, and our viewing.
Terrific.
The numbers continue to rise, which is certainly very good. But I did note they were down last week with you hosting the show, right? But we won't go there. We'll get straight into this week's show. Did our best, mate. That's all we can do. But as we say, week in, week out, this is the racing show that does promote all three codes across our racing, pacing and chasing. And we must thank the Prince Albert Hotel Gawler, who do a fantastic job coming on board as our inaugural major sponsor of the show and allow us to bring this show to our viewers.
They've been fantastic for us all the way through.
So, but we've got a big show to get to tonight. There'll be very little. We've got to skim through the racing news. We've got two very special guests on tonight. We've got Paul Bashara joining us with the famous Happy Trails story, and I'll tell you what, there's some laughs to be had there. And Paul's also going to join us in the new year on a more regular basis to share some stories.
Look forward to that. We might even get his brother in as well, once or twice.
Just what, to tip us one? Our other special guest is Brodie Webster. We had Jake, his brother, on the show. Episode 1, we've got Brodie. Brodie's on his way next week to represent South Australia in the Australasian Young Drivers Championship in New Zealand. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that and also his current driving form and he's driving in a very good patch of form at the moment and juggling veterinary studies as well, so we look forward to discussing that with him.
And the infamous 10 questions, of course, mate.
10 questions in 60 seconds. We'll fire them at him with the number 10 gloves, yes or no. But let's get straight into the racing show, Rocky. Sponsored each week by the Gawler Barossa Jockey Club, led by Shane Collins. He does an amazing job out there, and have we got some announcements on behalf of the Thoroughbred Racing SA have made some major announcements which really boost racing in Gawler.
Sure does.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we've got an announcement shortly we're going to get together with the three codes in Gawler next week. We'll talk about that straight on the racing show. Let's get straight into it. Alright, we're back with the racing segment now of Racing, Pacing and Chasing, and let's get straight into it. We must thank, as we said, the Gawler Barossa Jockey Club, but some big announcements through the week, and by the Racing Minister, Corey Wingard, has approved the first release of many millions of dollars to go into the industry. And
it's all going to infrastructure, which is great.
The long-term future of the sport.
Yeah, and some of it's past time, but there's also the good things like the equine pool at Gawler going in. I think it's $400,000 for that. So, and I believe it's going to be right next to Gary Searles.
Yeah, they started knocking down the fence there through the week. So and they didn't waste any time. It was Gawler Cup Day. Sorry, it was the Oaks Day at Gawler. When I was talking to Shane, the announcement was made that day. And that's only 2 weeks ago, and they're straight into work. So that's pleasing. But the Racing Minister's come out. He's obviously pre-announced the clubs and allowed them to get straight into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's get it happening. And let's just go through those. So there's a sand uphill track going at Murray Bridge. So that facility grows again.
That's fantastic. That's brand new up there. And to get another $500,000 to do the uphill sand track, they're so beneficial to thoroughbreds. That'll grow.
100%.
That'll grow.
The $400,000 investment in the equine pool at Gawler. Now that doesn't only benefit the Gawler trainers there, around the local area, even as far as Oakbank, that want they can come and use it. Myself as a harness trainer in Gawler,
we're allowed to go and use it.
We're allowed to go and use it, so it's open to anyone with the equine industry. So talking to Shane, they'll work out how it runs, but they'll have someone managing that pool, and that's a great asset for the community. To bring people to the town. $105,000 for Port Augusta track refurb. A lot of racing at Port Augusta. And
they need that. They are racing a fair bit there. It's probably the most popular track in the Iron Triangle, really. And the last couple of meetings I've watched there, it's starting to get a little bit tired and a little bit dusty, so that'll be helpful for them.
And just two more significant. There was a lot of little announcements with it, or little bits of funding, but there's a $500,000 upgrade towards the Encore stables at Moorfield, so they're getting an overhaul, which will that'll be amazing. That's finished. That's $500,000, and then I think there's about $250,000 into the Gawler Encore stables as well. And I think part of that is Gawler they're putting in another 10 or don't quote me, 10 to 20 boxes to attract some outside trainers. So we might talk to Paul a bit later or next year. He might even come back out of retirement
get some revenue
into Gawler, but attract more trainers. And they're even talking Stokes. Might even sit up there. I know when Shane was talking. Get a marquee trainer like that to come and rent 5 or 10 boxes.
Yeah, and all these things are terrific, and unfortunately there's going to be a few clubs that say, well, what about us?
Yeah.
Well, it's not over and done with just yet, and they're just going to keep putting their
This is only the
submissions in.
first
So,
releasing.
Yeah, so
it'll come out
there shouldn't be not one negative thing about this ever, but there always will be. But their turn will come. You know, if they're successful and they're doing well, they'll get money now.
We said on the show, on the intro, but we are going to film next week from Gawler after the races.
Yep.
And I think we'll talk about it more then. I'm really looking forward to next week's show because we're going to have all three codes. We're going to tee it up with Sean Nowat, Shane Collins, so Sean Nowat from the Greyhounds, Shane Collins from the Jockey Club, and my father Peter Bain, president of the Gawler Harness Racing Club, who have recently come on board as well. We're going to get all three there next week on a panel, and I'm really looking forward to that session because we've got some ideas we want to put to the group. We won't talk about them this week. We're just going to throw it at them next week. But you know, we'll talk about it in the racing show or the pacing show. Gawler have just had a big announcement, the Harness Racing Club, with the land management agreement lifted, so that's big news there. I tell you what, I love living in Gawler at the moment. There's big things happening. Anyway, Jericho Cup on Sunday at Warrnambool. Yeah,
this is a really, really good series, I reckon. It goes, I mean, we had a heat here, and the race is the longest flat race in Australia by a long, long way. It's 4,600 metres flat race, and it's full up. Usually these
start... Could you run that far on your footy?
By about 9 minutes.
Yeah, 9 minutes. That's 2 minutes 20 a k, mate. Yeah, okay. You wouldn't drive that fast. Back on.
Anyway, 4,600 metres. It's a long way. Usually those big long stars races only get the small fields. This is capacity. It's not a bad prize pool in it as well. But personally, everyone just calls it the Jericho series, and I don't think enough credit's given to the fact that it's about our World War One veterans who fought in the deserts over there. And that was when the Jericho Cup was first run, during a break in fighting, if you like. Yeah. And the first Jericho Cup was won by a horse called Bill the Bastard, which sounds terrific, doesn't it?
Sounds like one you won.
That's what I call you after they lose. But Bill the Bastard was actually one of the greater war heroes of the equine in the war, so I just reckon it could be promoted it's really heavily and make it a really big day.
It's funny you say that, and before we were obviously putting our show notes together for this week and discussing that, I didn't know the history of it. You know, and you talk about the promotion of it. It's a great story, and we got talking on it. But you're right; it could be promoted so much more outside of the racing industry. But I'm certainly looking forward to watching it. I'll probably go for, you've got enough time to jog for coffee and in between you come back and half a kip, but you'll be right. 4,600 metres is a long way. But you got a tip for it this week?
Not really. A Blaze, I think, has probably been trained pretty well for the race. I'd be happy to have a couple of bucks on that, but 4,600 metres, mate, you change your mind 19 times. Anyone
can win from there. Let's get straight into it now with our first segment. So our first segment of the week, 3 wide no cover. Now, 3 wide no cover, thanks to our team at Punt Club. We're here tonight enjoying hosting the show from their facility.
Fantastic.
Fantastic facility here. But we found a few hard luck stories. We always like finding the hard luck stories, and there was none better than this meeting in China that we're just going to go to now. It wasn't one hard luck story, it wasn't 2, I think there was 7. Pick the winner on the turn. Let's take a look at it now.
影响到了西洋斜道，领先的金卓继续加速，突然金卓又开始出现外闪，但其实甩下马来，金卓转上大将军，把大将军转到地上。
I don't think anything was supposed to win that race.
No, I think they went into the jockey's room before the race and said, we'll get all beat here. Someone forgot the memo.
The one that near the finish line, who actually hit the front because all the others were falling over, I think the jockey actually pulled that one up because he wasn't supposed to be. With 50 to go, he hit half a length in front, so I was waiting for him to fall off as well.
He should have just jumped, because it was absolute carnage. But anyway, let's jump into your first 3 wide no cover. It comes from Kembla Grange, a Godolphin runner.
Yeah, it's a James Cummings, Hugh Bowman combination. It's settled last at Kembla Grange. It's not a great track. It's got a cutaway road, and you think that'll be good, and a very, very wide track, but they just don't come from the back that well at Kembla. But this thing hard spun. It was in that $31 chance for a Godolphin horse, which
ridden by Hugh Bowman.
They don't do it with Hugh Bowman on board, so obviously it hadn't shown a whole lot until this race, and it come from last, got beaten ahead, and if it didn't duck in at the 100 metre mark, it would have won. So I reckon he'll be one to follow. He won't be $31 anymore though, but we'll have a look at it, mate, and just see it come from in the blue, come from the last on the corner.
They're at the 400 by 2 on switch. Then Pumpkin Pie further back to Masumare. Back on the inside, Lucicello starting a run now, 3 or 4 off the lead. Kylese at the 200, going great guns by 2 on Pumpkin Pie, Lucicello and then Handspun. Kylese still the leader below the 100 from Pumpkin Pie and Handspun flushing at the end. Handspun after Kylese. Kylese in a photo.
Certainly can't miss those colours there,
Nope.
but we'll black book that one. But we continue to thank Punt Club. They do a fantastic job, and download the app today and get your syndicates together and start building your bank like ours has certainly gone right up there. If that is right, that you register their account, and our balance is as it stands at $46,354. That's how I've got it registered at home. But anyway, we'll make sure.
We have got an interview coming up with Jason too later on tonight.
Looking forward to that. But talking about all things Punt Club.
Yep.
In the Money, thanks to Ladies in Racing magazine. So let's go to the next segment, In the Money. Righto, Rock, you found one here. Stayed local at Morphettville at Gordon Rich's barn.
Yep. Well, for a start, Gordon Rich's horses are flying at the minute. He's taken a couple to Melbourne and got the money, and all of his horses are now starting to show some form here. And Enki's been one of those horses that he doesn't mind running 3rd and 4th. He cruises up to him and then just stops, a bit like Flop that I've tipped, and that's from the Gordon Rich's stable as well. But this one settled 1-1 on Saturday and took off at the 400 and just kept going to the line. He was each way odds, and I reckon now that he's found that winning form, he can keep going. As I said, he's shown promise for 2 years, but only as a place getter mainly. He's won a couple here and there, but I reckon now that he's won as convincingly as he did Saturday, we can keep following him.
Right, let's take a look at the replay now. Enki.
Backmarkers have the job ahead here. Then See the Masker, then came Disco Rebel and Obscura. And they work towards the 400 metre mark now in the last event. It's still Fly for You Long narrowly. Enki gets going, moves to second. They dropped off a Dado, making ground so astounding. Jack the Giant Slayer runs on. The favourite's got a battle here. Fly for You Long headed off by Enki on the outside. They run by the 200. Jack the Giant Slayer's running on now. Inside the 150, Enki broke clear. Jack the Giant Slayer ran to second, then Fly for You Long. Enki's in front. Holder's going to get a treble, and Enki too good for Jack the Giant Slayer. 3rd Fly for You Long.
All right, certainly one to follow there, but your form's held up pretty well over the recent weeks, Rocky. So I think next year we're going to do more of a runners to follow for the week. If you've mentioned them in 3-1 no cover in the money, and just because we don't we tend to tip them and they don't get lost in the system at times, and we want people to know they're just lurking in the woods and continuing to. So. But Ladies in Racing magazine, for those that haven't jumped on, jump on today, www.ladiesinracingmagazine.com.au. Subscribe now, $33 a year, so we thank them for their support. It is time to thank our sponsors. We have tried to keep the racing show very brief, as we've got Paul Bashara to get to with the interview with him, so leave as much time as possible for that. But our sponsors on the racing program, we'll just skim through them and thank them. The Prince Albert Hotel Gawler, Punt Club, Ladies in Racing magazine, the Gawler Jockey Club will be out there next week. Fluoro Milk and Co. Still waiting for those milks from you, Mr. Butterworth. Slow Tours, Sports Centre, Southern Trophies, Peter Page Holden, MGA Insurance Brokers, our murder station, and we must thank Adam from Sports Centre for becoming a premium sponsor in the last month as well. So you can see there the show's continuing to grow. People are coming on board and wanting to be a part of this 3 codes that we bring week in, week out.
It's been good.
All right, let's stay tuned. We're going to go now to our special guest, Paul Bashara. And welcome back to Racing, Pacing, Chasing. We're here now joined by our special guest tonight on the racing segment, none other than Paul Bashara. Welcome, Paul.
How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight. And
my pleasure.
Firstly, we've got to kick off. We've got a very, obviously, Rocky's close mate. You're a brother of yours as well. But you're the little-known brother of the harness racing, you could say, trainer, driver, professional punter. That's what he calls himself these days. John Bashara.
Jumping Jack.
What's it like living in the shadows of Jumping Jack?
Oh, he's so famous.
He's
Yeah, no, he's all right. He's a good bloke.
Good bloke?
Yeah.
Not the other way around, is it?
What's that? No, he's good. He's had a very successful career.
Who shouts at the mill on Tuesday mornings, mate?
Me.
Who would have thought? Anyway, Paul, obviously well known as the trainer of multiple group winning Happy Trails, and we'll talk a little bit about that journey tonight and the story behind his purchase, the price you paid, and what was it about that chestnut by a good journey that you did once like, and maybe let's kick off with that, because that's why you're here tonight to probably talk about your career, and let's kick off with Happy Trails. What a story that is.
Well, it started off, I had a mare called Hurricane Dance. I was trained horses for Peter and Erica Dickman, my best clients, and after the mare retired, they wanted to put it to stud, so we chose Good Journey, because really he was a private stallion. He had a lot of winners, and he had Group 1 success with Sound Journey and that, so we went there. That was in September, and then March the yearling sales were in Adelaide, so we went down. I had to buy 3 horses, so looked at this one by Good Journey out of Madame Flurry, beautiful striking chestnut, and said to Eric, I said, we'll buy this, and we put, I won't say how much, but we put a figure on the horse that we would go up to, which was quite a lot, much more than what we got him for. But when he came in the sale ring, there wasn't one bid, not a bid, so then they opened the bidding for the vendor's bid of $10,000. So I bid 1,000 and sold 11,000. So I said, Erica, we better go back and make sure this horse has got 4 legs, because just no one was interested. And we went back and looked at him, and he was striking. We couldn't see a thing wrong with him. I sent the 3 horses to Will Clarkin at the time. He was colt breaking at Performance Park. And about a fortnight later, he rang me up and he said, this is the best horse I've ever broken in my life. He said, he's an absolute natural. And from then on, everyone that rode him would come in and say, this is a natural, he's just such a good horse. And that's how it went.
Yeah. You took him to Murray Bridge for his second start. First start, was it?
First start, on a heavy track.
Yeah.
But then we didn't know that he just couldn't run on a heavy track. He ran third, and a very good third. And then second up, I put him in an open 2-year-old at Morphettville. He missed the start by about 4 lengths and won by 2. Okay. And before that, he was
started ringing.
Yeah, the phone was ringing. And
how did you hold your nerve and not take the 500,000, 600,000 that you offered as a very early 2-year-old?
Well, that was the first up. When he raced, we got offered. I forget his name, Pullman from Sydney. He's a buyer for Hong Kong. He rang up and he said, I'll give you 250,000. And Peter was there and he said, no. So I'm lucky because the 2 owners, the people that own it, are very staunch people, and they would never let it go, They love the horse. So a half hour later, he rang back for 300. Then by 5:30 that night, he was 500,000 because he ran that slashing time. Yeah. And so, but they said no. They just kept saying no.
And you're talking 2010, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money back then.
Oh, massive money. And no, they just wouldn't sell. So we originally, over time, that eventually went to $1 million. They knocked back for him.
Wow, unbelievable. That journey goes on to 2012. You win your first Group 1 with him, with the Emirates Stakes, and at Flemington. That would have been an amazing trip.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. That was so great. They threw me in the pool at the Crown Casino. Suit and everything. But I was that drunk, I didn't care. It was just a great night.
Yeah. And then you went on. You won 2 more Group 1s in the Turnbull Stakes, and then the McKinnon Stakes as well, at good odds, mind you.
The Turnbull, 40 to 1.
Yeah, Jack Tippett, he said.
He did. Yeah. Dwayne Dunn actually rode the horse on the Tuesday morning at Caulfield, track work, and he came in, he said, there's nothing here can beat you. There's nothing here can beat you. And they dish it up 25 to 1, 30 to 1. I get the races in, he's 40 to 1. And because Poisson's Saloon was said was the greatest horse in Australia. Yeah. He was in the race, so all the rage was for him. So we just thought, well, when Dwayne Dunn says to you, get in, 40 to 1, thank you very much.
Beautiful. Cox Plate alluded to you got a second to the lightly weighted Seamus Award.
Yeah, that much.
And it was only 1.5 inches. Yeah. But he raced him at 5 times.
Five straight Cox Places.
Yeah.
He raced in, and he actually raced at Moonee Valley 7 years straight, because as a 3-year-old, he raced in the Red Anchor.
Yeah.
As a 4-year-old, he went into the Waterford Crystal Mile, and then he done the next 5 Cox Plates. So I reckon that's a record in itself.
Yeah.
Now, he raced 35 times at the elite level,
Yeah.
won $3.5 million in prize money, who exceeded that.
Yeah.
Retirement day must have been a hard day for him when he retired at 9
sad.
years of age.
It's sad. It's like losing your child. It's sad.
How did you come to that decision, that this was it? You know, obviously at 9, but
He-
what brought you that day to make
Well,
the decision?
his last year he raced, he ran last in the Cox Plate that last year, and he just came in and he just had that look, you know, he had that look in his eyes, I've had enough. So then we put him in the McKinnon,
Yeah.
and when he came in from that, I said that's it,
Done.
he's done. And Erica, she just agreed straight away, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So the girl that strapped him, and she wrote all his work, Chelsea, in Melbourne, we gave him to her. And then I said to Chelsea, don't ever spell this horse at your mum's place, because her mother's got a property, because she really loved the horse.
Yeah.
So when Chelsea spelled the horse there, the mother Constance gave the horse, and now it's doing equestrian and dressage and you name it. It's just
Fantastic
the
So is it going well in that?
Oh yeah.
field? Yeah.
But it's just spoiled. She spoils it. You know, if it could walk in the house, it would. It's just, but it's a people's horse. It
Yeah.
loves people.
Yeah.
Before we move on to what's Paul Bashar doing now, let's just take a look at the replay of the Happy Trails in the 2012 Emirates Stakes. Just drop that in there and we'll get back to it. All right,
Yeah.
so, right. Very special day, the Emirates Stakes,
yeah.
one of the many highlights in his career. What was the biggest for you?
I think when he won the Turnbull,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all good. That was my first Group 1 was the Emirates, so that was really good. And I'm the only bloke ever give Ollie a hug up on the stage.
He won twice.
He won the McKinnon.
Yeah.
He said to me after the McKinnon, he said, we were just going to win effortlessly. And he said, I loomed up on the outside of He's Your Man with Joe Moreira. And he said, I don't know what that Moreira's got, but he just kept the horse going. He said, we just couldn't get past it. He said, we just got it on the line. And he said, by geez, he has magic hands.
Those good jockeys can get the best out of them, can't they?
I knew Happy Trails had a habit of not winning by much and not
No.
getting beaten by much, mate.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Now,
Yeah.
other than drinking beer like we're doing on Saturday night, what's Paul Bashar doing these days?
Oh, I went for a world cruise. I had an accident. One of the horses kicked me in both shoulders, and then I had to have an operation. So that was the end of the training days. I went on a world cruise. We bought a new caravan, and we got the 4-wheel drive, all brand new. So we went round Australia twice. Went on a world cruise, 3 months, but that was, I wouldn't go on one of them again. It's just too long. Couldn't get off. Couldn't get a bet. No tab on there.
Punt Club would have found a way for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, had a little lash in their casino, but it's pretty hard in there. So I just go down to visit people down the track, potter around,
Yeah.
go around Jack's, see him, have a coffee with him. Rocky's coming next Tuesday morning, have a coffee.
Only if I bring the finger buns down.
Bring the
mate.
finger buns, and you might have to shout.
Might have to.
Yeah, oh, you
Shout to
will.
Nescafe as well.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Any interest still in horse? Like you got any shares, or
No,
you're
no.
out there, you just watch from afar.
I watch from afar. Eventually one day I might sort of have another go. I've always had success with them, so
Yeah.
you
What
know.
about your owners, Paul, that loved having their horses with you, the Dickmans? Are they still involved at all? Or are they given
Yeah,
away as well?
no, they've got a share. We had a horse called Alana June by Mossman, and they bred with a woman called Lynette Day. They bred a horse by Good Journey out of her,
Yeah.
and they're going to have a go with that.
Okay.
So they'll be 50-50 in that, and they'll
Yeah.
have a go with that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
It's certainly been an exciting journey, and probably still not over. If you just heard it there that he may tip his toe back in it one day again.
Well,
so we look forward to that day.
7 years, best 7 years of my life. You could not imagine the limelight and the people that would just come up to you in the streets in Melbourne and Sydney. Happy Trails. They'd say, "How's Roy? How's Roy? How's Roy?" And when you'd saddle up, there was Chris Waller was saddling Winks up 10 stalls down, there's 50 people in front of Happy Trails watching me saddle him up. You know, because they just loved him. He was.
They're saying because that's like the throwing the pool at the casino the other week. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
They all knew from that day too.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to become a regular with us every fortnight now,
Yeah,
Paul, which would be good.
It'd be lovely.
Story
Be
time
lovely.
from now on though, mate, no serious stuff.
No serious stuff?
No.
Tell the story
No,
about
actually, no,
when I was
sure,
swimming
no.
Happy Trails.
Yeah, go on, tell us now before we
I
go.
was down the beach swimming Happy Trails. And when you swim a horse, you get around, get in front of it, right? So you hang onto the bridle, put your feet up on his chest, and he's pushing you along. And these people, I'm not sure, they're waving and waving. And I'm looking around, and he starts snorting, and next minute this bloody dolphin come out the water, that close to me, just come straight out the water. And all I see was this dorsal fin come out. Well, the heart stopped. I couldn't hold on to the reins, and the horse is headed back inshore. So I've grabbed his tail, and he's dragged me
Like
in.
a jet ski.
Yeah, in I've gone. He's got in, as he's getting into more shallow water, he's getting up better speed, and I'm still hanging on there. There's a big trail of brown behind me.
How's your Happy Trails going?
Oh,
then, mate?
mate, my Happy Trails was, like I said, there's a big trail of brown behind me. The shark, if it was a shark, it would have died. And thank God, he stopped. He just stopped at the edge of the water.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even get up. I was that stuffed.
You wouldn't have wanted to, would you, if it's been on the beach?
No. And he just stood there. Oh, thank God for that.
He was worried about it. He was just taking you back to shore, I think.
Yeah.
I reckon. Got out the bloody harbour. Oh,
Well, that's a pretty good way to end the segment. But I tell you what, that gives a bit of a taste for what we've got in store in the new year.
Plenty more.
You're going to join us in the new year, and we'll have a short recess over the Christmas break. But we look forward to you joining us more on a more regular basis. There's plenty more of those stories, I'm sure.
Heaps of them. Heaps.
Good on you, mate.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, and
Thank you.
enjoy the beer. And we'll be back after
All right.
with the pacing segment of
Cheers.
racing, pacing, chasing. And welcome to our pacing show this week of Racing, Pacing and Chasing, episode 12. I'm Aaron Bain and joined by my co-host this week, Rocky Butterworth. Welcome, Rocky.
Thanks, mate. Good to have you back after swanning around Mildura last week.
You did on your own last week. What was going on there?
Claire was off preparing for an interview with Lizzie for the equestrian and rehoming side of it, and I decided just to go solo.
I
mate.
heard you pushed Claire aside and said, I got it this week. You
That
don't know
might have
anything-
happened.
You don't know anything about pacing. It's my show.
No,
Get
you're
off.
trying to deflect here, mate. You nicked off last week to Mildura.
Yeah.
Got your first winner since 1973.
2003, yeah.
And then you got another one at Globe on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I just want to show the viewers, we've got you back home at Gawler after you dropped off God of Thunder and put him away and gave him a feed. We've got you dancing around at Gawler, two winners.
Now there's CCTV footage at home, but not for this purpose, all right?
It is fantastic, so I'm looking forward to people actually seeing you dancing around at the stables after
Brookfield?
2 wins.
2 wins in
Next one.
25 weeks.
Yeah. How many of those are mine?
Yeah, no.
None. Yeah, that's
I've
good.
got one in the wings for you this week, mate.
Anyway,
I got a bit. So I'm gonna, have you showed the footage yet, or you still want it?
no, we'll have a look now. We'll have a look at Aaron dancing here, and it's good vision. He's a good dancer, and imagine if he gets another one next week. Look forward to that.
Right now, I just need you to get real loose. Get comfortable. Grab your loved ones, or grab your love partner. Then cowboy boogie. Grab your sweetheart and spin out with them. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Don't throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your head finish. It's simple, you can do it. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Now cool down, have a good time. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Do the butterfly, have a good time round, round. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Don't throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your head finish. That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart.
Geez, if I get another one next week, I might even do it live on the show. No, I better not say that.
No.
That won't be
And
good.
you're naked enough in that one, mate. Without taking it any further.
Anyway, but no, it was a good week. But
Yep.
I put it down to that I wasn't actually on the show that week, so I hadn't trained a winner since I'd started the show. So I put it down to it was my week off. So that's why. But no, they were both good winners. So
Yep.
Alcatraz Lass and Got a Thunder. But local harness racing news. Let's jump straight into it.
Yep.
Gawler Harness Racing Club. So hasn't been officially announced yet, but we're going to announce it. I got a text message from my father, the president of the Gawler Harness Racing Club, last night,
Yep.
and he was very cheerful about it. The land management agreement has been lifted at the.
Do you want to
Gawler
explain
Harness
what that
Racing.
means, mate?
Yeah, so there was a, and we'll get that on the show next week
Yep.
at the Gawler Jockey Club to probably go in more depth. I'll try and explain it as best I can. But obviously there was a land management agreement just which prevented regular race meetings at the Gawler
Yep.
Harness Racing Club, and there were just some hurdles they had to jump to get that lifted, and
Yep.
and then have basically not a free for all, but have free use of that land. So there were
Yep.
conditions in place on the way they use that land that has been lifted by the
And the council hammered that.
by the mayor Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, that's excellent.
That was a unanimous decision, and that was the second or third time they've been to council, and even you could read the jubilation in Dad's text message, and
Yeah.
I'm sure when he comes on the show next week, he doesn't know he's coming on yet, but he will when he watches this show this week. He'll look forward. It was a proud achievement for him, and probably not also the club as well.
It's
a
taken
big
a long
step.
time, mate.
Yeah, it has, and they've got the one barn in. That hopefully some of this other funding might bring another barn, and I reckon we'll see racing at Gawler at the Harness Racing Club in the very, very near future. In the
Yeah,
new year.
fantastic.
So certainly
Looking forward to that.
looking forward to that. But suppose in other racing news, but close to my heart at the moment, the frustration of the free-for-all trot falling over again this week. But been
Well,
disappointing.
mate,
We've lost 3 of the last 4 program free-for-all trot races.
There's 2 things there for me with the trots falling over, and one is as little as 2 years ago, the trots were big fields. They were always guaranteed that you could fill trots maybe to a meeting. Now our open class, we're struggling to get 5 nominations, and you've got a horse that, and you're not the only one, but you've got a horse in really good form at the moment that stays home in the barn more than it should because you can't get a runner now. You're taking it into state
I
to
feel
get a start.
It's not aimed at. I was talking to David Smith about this through the week, and
Yeah.
he's got 2 nice trotters at the moment in the Page Boy and Kano Imogen. It's disappointing that they won't run that free for all trot with 6 horses encouraged. And I was talking to him about this, and it's close to my heart at the moment because we've got a nice little trot in the stable and got a thunder.
Yeah.
But I think my suggestion forward is just without fail each week. And they often program a $7,000 free for all trot race each week. That's $28,000 in prize money. Without fail each week, each month, run 3 $8,000 trots, run 3 $8,000 free for alls for the month. On the other week, run a $4,500 one. Right, that's the same money, but people see $8,000 trot races.
Well, Victoria people, for a start, will start sending horses back over.
You see this week the free for all, the Vet Surgeon's Cup.
Yep.
There's an $8,000 free for all. There was enough nearly to have a full field of 11, and then enough for 7 or 8 others. Right.
Yep.
So they could have run another supplementary free for all, even for 4.5 for consolation to it. That's the first time in a while the Vet Surgeon's Cup's been that strong. It is a very good race. There's a number of chances in there, but run that week in, week out. There was a time we've struggled with numbers in that free for all rank. Encourage better horses to this state, right? And if we can commit that there's going to be an $8,000 race, a bit like Tassie are doing with the trotters.
Yep.
They did it with 5. Then they did it, but they juggled the prize money. They've got 7 and 8 horses now, time to time.
Yeah.
But those same horses are going because they are committed to racing for 8,000 for 5 or 6 horses.
Yeah.
You've got a nice little group of trotters here. I know you've got the other trot series on at the moment for that 30 plus rating, but encourage the top line horses that are going to attract the better horses.
The other thing is, mate, and we've done a bit of research with that turnover on trot races is actually getting up there and over and above pacing races. So people like betting on the trots. I know I do, because you can have your wide trifectas because there's a fair chance there'll be a galloper in the field, and maybe it might be the odds on favour that everyone stood out. So you can make some money on the trots, and with that turnover, if we're serious about what we're doing and want to get turnover up out there, and that's probably their only source of income at the moment, then they've got to do
Yeah.
things like what you're saying.
And like the free-for-all trot was only 5 on Saturday night. It was going to be 6, and they ran it for 4.5. So credit, they still put the race on. But this week they haven't run it with 6. There was 6 in the noms, and you know, David Smith and myself, we're going to stall obviously on Sunday for the Stall Trotters Cup. And that's 6 hours away. Well, you know, and I've made plans that God of Thunder, he's staying in Melbourne for a month. So that puts the free-for-all trot race at, you know, one less until some of those others in that lower grade come out after this series. But while that series is on, it's always going to be tough for the free-for-all. So I just hope new board appointments, you know, and obviously there's a new trainers association out there as well. But we're only talking about one subject here with the trotters. There's certainly paces, young horses, 3-year-olds are a big contentious issue. We talked about that with Ryan on the show last week. So there's a number of topics here that there's plenty of opportunity if done right, you know, and think outside the square, don't think the norm. So don't get me wrong, it's across the board. I saw a funny one on Twitter today. Michael Stanley put up a post, I'm not sure if you saw it. HRV are programming the first 2-year-old race of the season next week, and it was restricted to horses that have not won a race this season. It's the first 2-year-old race of the season in Australia. So it's everywhere, you know, we've just got to think smarter. Like that's,
we do.
You know, and that looks silly in itself, but there's opportunity out there. It just gets a bit frustrating, that's all I say. So let's get on to some positive talk. The Inter Dominion starts on Friday night. And we talk about trotters. There's more trotters left in the series than there is paces. And they could well come Friday night. I think fields are out obviously today, but only 2 heats in both. Could be down to 2 heats.
Mate, I don't mind that. As I said, I think it creates turnover. I think, you know, traditionally heats have been won by odds-on favourites regularly. Punters get a little bit bored with it. There should be 2 or 4 even heats across the 2 weeks, and I think it's, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. You like to see 3, there's not enough. 2 will create a whole lot more interest, I reckon. You got a tip for the pace of the trotters this far out? No.
All right. I'll start. I'll go the way of Cruz Bromac in the paces. I think he's just hit his straps nicely. And then I'll probably go the way of a Big Jack Hammer. I'm going to stick with Dominic for the owner of God of Thunder, but Big Jack Hammer, hopefully they, I see they've even got shirts made up, so they're going to New Zealand in a big way, the team, so all the best to them. But let's get into our segments now. 3 wide, no cover. Right, 3 wide, no cover, thanks to Garrard Horse Products. So they've recently come on board as well, and not right tipping one of your owners a 3 wide, no cover, but anyway, I'll leave it to you.
I was out looking, we're talking about, it is one of mine with you, Aaron, but she had her first start for us from New Zealand last week. You've been patient, we've been patient as owners. Had no luck, it was back to last at the top of the straight at Globe Derby on Saturday and sprinted sharply up the sprint lane, we've got to say, and she's drawn 3 in the final this week, and you've declared it, which is great.
I haven't declared it. Look at, never declare it. Never declare it.
But we'll have a look at last week's run. She's 3 back on the fence, effectively back to last in the corner, and she sprints up the lane very well.
And for leader, flashing good time. 3 back is eyes down and looking. White Star Steffi in a nice position, 1 out, 1 back. Now angles off 3 wide. Then we go back to Scenic Rise, who latches onto his back. Back behind those, Midnight Prowler, Illawong Jerry, and Steinman at the tail. Down the back, it's still Alexander Greenwood here by 4 metres. White Star Steffi is making ground. Back on the inside, flashing good time. Around the outside comes Midnight Prowler, who starts to chime into the race. Then in turn behind those, we have Steinman trying to improve. Eyes down and looking back on the inside. Up front, Midnight Prowler takes over now. From Alexander Greenwood, White Star Steffi. Down the outside comes Steinman. It's Midnight Prowler by 4 metres. Steinman is trying hard down the outside, but Midnight Prowler gets up to beat either Steinman or Eyes Down and Looking in a photo.
You know, very pleased with her run there, Rocky, and we spoke about it, you know, she sort of only got down the last 50, 60 metres and hit the line, so Wayne elected to stay with her over the other heat winner in Bubbles and Cheese, one of the other heat winners. There was 3 heats. It's certainly a competitive race. Certainly there's a number of chances. Big field, $10,000 spring challenge. We sort of set her for it 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you know, she comes through a trial well, first up run, and we're looking forward to Saturday night. She should, I probably see her as the leader, and you know, she's going to get every chance. So yeah, see how we go. But next segment, in the money. Righto, Rock, in the money, you've let me down again. This is sponsored by Fluoro Milk, Clay Mods and Kimmy K. I was on the phone to you last night actually, after your other engagements at football, but I said, can you do me one favour, and for the 12th week in a row, remember to bring the Fluoro Milk, and you did not. So you got one show next week.
There is guaranteed that it will be at Gawler next week.
That is on record and will be played back to you on the show if it isn't. Okay?
Done.
All right? Okay. What have you found this week for the In the Money?
This was a pretty good one as well. It led, Regal Lager we're talking about, it led in its race, but they took it on.
Very impressive, I thought.
Yeah,
Very impressive.
It was. They've come home in 58.7 and it did have not super harassment during the race, but enough to, you know, sort of give the horse a bit of grief on the outside. We watched it and we thought it was gone at the top of the straight and it was going to get...
It was headed at the 700, like 6.
Yeah, and it's fought back really well, and it can come from back in the field as well. It's not a one-trick pony, it doesn't have to lead. So yeah, I think it's a good chance to just keep winning these type of races.
It seems to be the harder you drive it off the gate and the more forward you get it, the harder it finishes off. Like it was,
that's right.
It didn't deserve, deserve to win. It had no right to win, I should have said, and it was still coming. As you said, looks gone and wins. So let's take a look at the final 200 metres. Probably gets headed here at the top of the straight, kicks back and wins.
Black Warrior under pressure, Canada Bay. He's hasn't gone full steam at the moment. Lovable Larrikin angles down to the inside to follow through and go for a sprint lane win. And then behind those, Assassinator. Regal Lager's trying to hold them all at bay, but here comes Lovable Larrikin and Black Warrior and Canada Bay. Big finish. He's still kicking Regal Lager. He's still in front. He held him off. Regal Lager beat Lovable Larrikin, third Black Warrior and Canada Bay. Behind those, we had Assassinator.
You can see Ryan Horrocks getting the best out of that horse over the concluding stage, and that horse does lift for him. Ryan's got a good relationship with him, so looking forward to watching him go around over the coming weeks, but or going into the summer as well. Let's go to now to the drive of the week. Righto, drive of the week, thanks to the Kapunda Harness Racing Club, and they've been great supporters jumping on board. But your 3 votes this week, Rocky.
Again, it was tough. There were a lot of the races were leader orientated and not much came from back in the field. But I've given 3 votes to Jake. It seems like an Aaron Bain segment this week, but Lil Irene's a leader and then slows down. And Jake took the initiative and went around and took the front himself and just rolled along well enough to keep the good horses under that bit more pressure than they wanted to. And then he took off at the 600, not flat out, but just increased the tempo enough to make those horses chase again. And in the last 80, they'd had enough, so I gave Jake 3 votes for his drive on Got a Thunder.
2 votes, Anthony Robertson.
Yeah, similar to Jake's drive, he found the top on his horse, Blissful Thinking. Kept on running solid quarters, and the horses behind probably left it way too late to get out after him. Then they were 4 and 5 wide doing the chasing when he was at top speed. So I gave 2 votes to Robbo there.
And 1 vote, Wayne Hill.
Yeah, that was Wayne does this regularly. He found the death and sat outside the leader, but instead of the leader controlling the race, I reckon Wayne did on his in the death and just ran it to suit himself and didn't have the horse under any kind of pressure, and was able to find the line up the straight. So
I think you're right. There was no standout drives for the week. There was certainly some good tactical drives, and all 3 of those deserve it. And hopefully Wayne this week's 3 votes from your horse would be nice, but he did win well there on Bubbles and Cheese. But now trial file. Righto, Rock, trial file, and there's probably none more impressive than this for some time, and I know Ryan's very buoyant about this horse. Waipinga Lad, he was very impressive at Gawler on Sunday, and I didn't go to the Gawler trials, I slept in for a change actually, but I went over and saw Ryan before he left. Slept in, had a sleep in, first time since 2003 also. Mate, that dance wore me out, dancing, but he said, wow, and he obviously qualified behind the stand. I know the owners want him to go to Wayville in a few weeks. Ryan's trying to hold off on that thought. He's got a very big opinion of this horse.
Yeah,
but
very good.
It's runs half in 56.1, mile rate of 157.7 over the 2,070 metres from the stand. That was his last mile. Yeah, it was pretty handy run. I was even, he talked to Wayne later in the day about trials, and I said, what came out of the trials? He said there was only one very impressive runner, and that was Waipinga Lad. So it's nominated for Monday in a stand as well. Got away from the tapes pretty good, led up. Shadow Control was in the trial. He was a quick beginner and he held him out comfortably. So, I think that's one to follow. We'll be winning next up, Waipinga Lad. So, all right, we've got a special guest now for the pacing segment. Brodie Webster will join us. So we look forward to interviewing Brodie as he heads to New Zealand next week to compete in the Australasian Young Drivers Championship. It's been a pleasure, as always, to join you in the pacing segment, Rocky. Look forward to next week, hopefully bringing you a winner for the first time since 1983. And we'll be joined next week by Peter Bain, Shane Collins and Sean Nowak at the Gawler Jockey Club. Really looking forward to that. And I think we're just going to sit back on a panel of 5 and just talk all things racing in Gawler. Really looking forward to that segment. Good. So thanks for joining us this week on the pacing segment, racing, pacing and chasing. Stay around for the interview with Brodie Webster, and short after that we'll have the chasing segment. Thanks, guys. And welcome back to the pacing segment. Our special guest on this tonight's show of Racing, Pacing, Chasing. We're joined by Brodie Webster. Welcome, Brodie.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, pleasure. And reason you come in tonight, you are about to jet off this time next week. You'll be on a plane to New Zealand to represent South Australia in the 2019 Australasian Young Drivers Championship. And what a thrill, not only for yourself, but it's going to be a great experience.
Yeah, fantastic, and just honoured to have the privilege to be able to go and represent SA. And I just hope we can do us proud and get a win over there, or at least have some bit of fun and do the representation justice.
And I reckon one of the last ones to go to New Zealand, well, in fact the last one to go was your brother Jake to New Zealand when last time the series was held there. So quite a good honour for the family as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I remember Jake telling me early days when I got my licence that if you were lucky enough to go on a drivers' championship, if you got New Zealand, you'd have a ball of fun. So I'm very excited.
We'll go through the program and we'll get to it in a minute. But yourself, you've had 710 drives in your short career today. Only sort of driven 6 seasons. 62 winners, 161 places. You're certainly right amongst it. And probably, we've been saying on the show in recent weeks, you've been scoring well in the actually drive of the weeks, because I reckon you're driving Port Pirie as well as you've ever driven it. And I think you're probably driving in career best form, we'd say, certainly on the show. And no better time to go to New Zealand for the series.
Yeah, I think that at the end of last season and coming into this season, I probably am, like you say, driving as good as I have and probably as good as I can. I struggle a little bit just because I can only drive one time a week, so you get limited time to be out on the track and constantly, getting better at your craft and stuff like that. But hopefully I can carry in a bit of form into New Zealand.
Yeah, and you're having some good success up at Port Pirie. That's been a good track for you as well. You don't mind to travel a bit when you can?
Yeah, when I can, and I say every time I get an interview how grateful I am for the Tatulis and stuff like that are up there, and Dale Appert and stuff like that put me on, and generally they have horses that are around the mark, like your Toss-Ups and of course Grey Maverick that's been in good form lately, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier when you can drive horses that are, anywhere from $2 to $6 sort of thing on the tote. It gives you a good chance to get a winner.
And we talk about you say only when you get a chance, because you are trying to balance the driving with your study in your last year, or moving into your last year of veterinary science. And that's been certainly very time consuming for yourself, but very rewarding at the same time. So you're soon going to have to make a decision, I suppose, whether it's driving. We won't talk about that before the series. We'll leave that. There'll come a time where you're going to get very busy with your career, but just tell us a bit about that juggling act now.
Yeah, look, it's very tricky. I mean, the hours that they demand at U at vet school are unreal. I was just talking to a med student the other day, and he couldn't believe the exams we had to sit and the hours that we do at the campus. So trying to do that with horses is great, because how good would it be to be able to be a driver and be a vet? But you're 100% right. It sort of is one or the other. You can't be good at both things, unfortunately. So at the moment I'm getting through, but I'm heading into final year, and that gets proper busy. So
and we're going to talk about that the other day on the track. You've got to be on call next year at some stage, and you can't be a certain distance away from the clinic at Roseworthy. So
every second week you've got to be within 10 k's of the clinic all weekend. So heading to Port Pirie might be out of the question.
That's right. Get a plane back quickly. But just talking a little bit about your vet before we go into the Australasian Young Drivers Championship. But you're doing a fair bit of work experience at the moment with 2 very good vets in Toby Ryan and Dr. Dan Sims as well. So Toby's very renowned in the harness racing industry, and obviously Dan Sims tied up his own business, Equus Veterinary Services, and tied up with McAvoy Mitchell. So you're getting great exposure there at a young age.
Yeah, and they're both great mentors. I mean, I'm getting closer and closer with Dan as I progress through my career, and partly because I was lucky enough to head over to Newmarket, as you know, a few months ago.
And he's only a young vet himself as well. Yeah.
Exactly, you know, he's only a few years older than me, and he went to Newmarket and got a taste of really what being a racehorse vet's all about. And to come back here and share that experience and get his knowledge and stuff like that's awesome. And you know, like you say, I'm spending some good time with them, and then Toby, who's doing all the trotters and the paces, which is, you know, what I've grown up with, and it's great to spend time with him too.
When did you make that decision? Like, what stage in your life that you wanted to be a vet? I know your brother, and we'll pot him on the show, but I know he wanted to, but was never smart enough. We'll say that.
Definitely.
So when did you go, I'll put my hand up on behalf of the family, and I'll be the successful one?
Yeah, look,
That's not saying he's not. No, we'll stir him up on the show.
He's doing good. But no, look, you're 100% right. So when I was younger, you know, Dad and Mum had worked their bums off to send us to a good school, and you know, in return to that, we sort of just wanted to, you know, they just wanted us to have a good job and stuff like that, and a good life. But you know, as you know, it's a lot of hardship in trotting, and the rule was that you can do as much as you want with trots, but you just have to try and get a job that will pay the bills week after week after week.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was younger, I wasn't that into the horses when I was young. It took me sort of, till I was probably 15 to really actually enjoy driving horses. I was more interested in driving tractors and motorbikes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, well, hang on, what sort of combines both of them to continue the horses, which is, you know, in the blood and love it. And then, like you say, have a reliable income that will pay the bill. So that was the answer.
And it's been very strong in your family background, the horse background for many years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had Jake on our first episode. We're 12 episodes in, and we've got yourself now. So maybe just recap briefly.
Don't talk about that episode. I drove one terrible after that.
We're trying not to jinx it anyway. You know, maybe just the brief family background of how you got in, because the Webster name's so synonymous with not only probably racing but horses in general.
Yeah, briefly. So Dickie's obviously my grandpa, and Dad trained with Jeffrey for a long time, and they had their stable out at Angevale for a fair while, beginning at Clemsing and moved out there. And then unfortunately when Sam passed away, Jeffrey sort of understandably had to get out of SA for a little while and sort of get away from it all, so he went there, and Dad had a good break. So we had nothing to do with horses for a long time. I remember Jake was out jogging horses with Ray Fewings and Bronte Giorgio when he had his junior driver claim. And then after that, we obviously teamed up with you out at Gawler, and then backed off to a smaller team, just mucking around with a few at home. We've got a treadmill, head down to the beach when we can, and then head to the track as well, and just sort of juggle it between the three of us. It's been good fun so far. So.
And you got a new one for the stable stepping out this week, so the horse obviously under your brother's name, but there's a new one.
We have West Star Stand, drawn the fence, so the pressure's on for Jake, but you know, he should go alright, so hopefully we can have some fun.
First up from New Zealand, so, and he's building you're both building a good little team there, so
we are. It's good fun.
Certainly some fun to be had. But let's talk a little bit about the Australasian Young Drivers Championship. So you fly out Thursday the 5th of December, you're gone for all of sort of 9 days, and you know, with that, so on the 7th you have your first drive at Addington, which will be an amazing experience, and no doubt you're looking forward to getting there. Then on the 8th you drive at Mount Hutt Raceway, Methison, sorry pronunciation there.
I'll let you do the pronunciation.
Then on the 10th we go to Manawatu.
Grass track
there. On the 11th, I like this one, rest day, because
well required, I think.
Well required.
After race activities,
there'll be a few of these. I've been on one myself in Sydney, and they're wild, to say the least. But you're back up then again at Manawatu on the 12th, Auckland on the 13th. Amazing looking.
I'm very excited to drive there.
Yeah, Alexandra Park, and then on the 14th, that's the night of the Inter-Dominion final, and you just, you know, you get to enjoy the night and probably have a few more beverages, and sit back and watch the very best.
And take it in and see the good horses.
The very best of Australasia go around, you know, and you're going to see the likes of Mark Purden and Natalie Rasmussen, the All-Stars team go up close, and probably throughout your trip you'll probably get to visit their facility.
It's good to see their stable, that's right. Yeah.
That'll be an amazing experience. So that's you've got a busy week coming up, you know, busy period coming up there, and I'm no doubt looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait as well, and like I say, I'm just grateful that I got to go. So
yeah,
hopefully we have some fun.
Hopefully do better than your brother.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. He's been on a few though. So
he did try and claim that he beat Dexter Dunn in the series.
He did. I didn't see the races though, so how do you know?
But anyway, what out of that, Addington or Auckland, where are you looking to drive? Most looking forward to driving.
Probably Auckland.
Yeah.
You know, Addington will be fantastic, but just Auckland because I think the hype will be there. You know what I mean? It's the night before the Inter-Dominion, and then just experiencing the Inter-Dominion at a track like that with the crowds that they're expected to get, I think will be exciting as well.
And your HRA announced today that the first Australian young driver home will represent Australia in the Young Drivers Championship in Sweden. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in Sweden I think it's called the Golden Watch or something like that, which is their junior driver equivalent. And in 2020, it's in December I think it is, or something like that. Whoever comes, highest on the leaderboard for Australians.
So you can run fourth because there's 3 Kiwis.
There's 3 Kiwis, so an Aussie can still run fourth with 3 Kiwis ahead of him and get the opportunity to go over to Savala and race over there, which. I've been there. It's an amazing track, so that'd be awesome.
No, certainly plenty of more beers and food over there. But anyway, let's go through. Well, look, before you go, we can't let you get away without the 10 questions in 60 seconds. So quick answers. Best horse seen?
Blacks are fake.
Best horse trainer? We'll include that with your brother as well.
Yeah, Gallifrey Mystique.
Yeah.
So.
Best trainer seen?
I like Jeffrey. I like Jeff.
Yeah. Best driver seen?
Best driver, Gav Lane.
Hardest driver driven against?
Oh, that's tricky. That's either Jake when you're running 9th and he's trying to get home. But NSA horse drivers that I drive with every week, probably Rozzy, Ryan Horrid.
Yeah. Biggest race you've won?
I haven't won anything other than a $7,000 race, so that doesn't count.
Race you most want to win?
SA Cup, for sure.
Best track driven on?
Melbourne.
Why?
Just the banking on the turns and stuff like that. So we haven't got anything like that in SA.
And we asked your brother this: gloves, yes or no?
No way in hell would I wear gloves.
Not allowed to now.
Not allowed to.
Anyway, no, Brodie. Thanks for joining us tonight, and certainly all the best over in New Zealand as you represent South Australia. Fly the flag for us. And try and do what some of us haven't done for many years, and that is win the series.
That'd be unreal. Hopefully we can. Thanks for having me.
All the best, mate.
Cheers.
And we'll be back with the chasing segment shortly after the break. And welcome to the chasing segment this week of Racing, Pacing and Chasing. I'm Aaron Bain, joined by my co-host Rocky Butterworth.
Good to be here, mate.
Just you again last week on the chasing segment. You tried to take the reins on the pacing and chasing.
I rifled through the greyhound segment in 2 minutes 13, mate.
You do a lot in 2 minutes 13, but anyway, we won't go there. Let's extend this one and bring the listeners what they want to hear, and that is greyhound talk. All right. So this week, before we get into it, we must thank the Gawler Greyhound Racing Club for sponsoring, and we look forward next week to getting Sean Nowak on the last show before Christmas with Shane Collins, Jockey Club, Peter Bain, the Harness Racing Club.
That'll be
Get
good.
all three together on a bit of a panel. We look forward to discussing all things racing in Gawler. So we thank them for support. This Friday night, big Friday night of racing, and we have the running of the Group 1 Melbourne Cup and Hooked on a Scotch. We continue to talk about him week in, week out. He's a $1.95 favourite from Box 8, but
won his heat from Box 8 as well, mate.
Broke the track record as well. He was very impressive in doing so. Drawn Box 8, as you said, he won the heat. Let's just run through the field.
8 last start winners, mate.
Yeah, well, it's an impressive lineup, isn't it? They've all had to get through to the Melbourne Cup. It's quite a competitive series. But Campini from Glen Rounds out of Box 1, $5. Interesting, there's 6 or 7 dogs here under $8 the field. Really. So number 2, Get It Gizmo, certainly a very handy dog. Box 2, $8. Number 3 is Whiskey Riot. Anthony Has a Party, $6. 4, Flynn, Jason Thompson, a kennelmate to Hooked on Scotch, $8. Number 5, Western Envoy, one of the outsiders in the field for Angela Langton, $34. 6, Jaro Bale, Andrea Daly at $34. 7, Oakvale Beauty, Jeffrey Britton at $51. So those 3 dogs there, you just want to hope they don't get in the way of Hooked on Scotch early. I'm tipping it. The 8, Hooked on Scotch, expect him to absolutely ping the lids. $1.95, and then there's the 2 reserve dogs, Shimmer Shine, Andrea Daly. and Simon Told Helen. That would be a good one to know why Simon Told Helen and what the story is behind that. $8.50 and $14 respectively. So, you know, let's take a look here at Hooked on Scotch winning his heat on the 22nd of November last week, but very impressive to say the least.
Dash away early. Hooked on Scotch led by 4 to Lucy's Milo. 5 away Dinah Unther, and then Snags Mackenzie, Lady Emerald. Well back to Kurt Lee, Keeper of Keys, and Sudden Force last. Keep your eye on the clock. It is all Hooked on Scotch, the shootout winner. He is roaring up the home straight, and he's going to dash into the Melbourne Cup. Hooked on Scotch in 28.93.
He's a good dog, Hooked on Scotch, and we might see him bring it best.
You know, his form's 1-1-2-1-1, and the only time Matty Knight's back is when he got beat.
Yep.
He's one of the worst in Australia that way.
He's got the best dog in Australia beaten through his weekly Matt's Mad multi, but that's how well he's going. Hopefully he didn't put it in his multi this week. But before we move on, I forgot to mention at the start of the show, I've jumped codes.
Yes, I've heard you've...
Can't reveal the dog's name, but jumped codes. I've joined our regular panellist, Benny Rawlings.
And is it true that you bought 10% for $8,000?
Not 10% for 8. I bought 25 for we're not divulging any numbers, but there's a 25% share under the name of A. Bain and R. Butterworth. I just have an invoice due for your side. So I've sold part of it off to you, but you just don't.
That's
really,
all right, mate.
But I'll let you know when we're lining up in the 2020 Melbourne Cup, mate.
Look forward to it.
So no, looking forward to getting him over there. It's actually dipped our toe in the water. I've been talking to Benny since he's on the show, and you know, just we might lead into that, but it's amazing, and a dog like him, and I didn't realise this before talking to Benny. It's not only this dog. Did you know there's an SA rule, right? And just I've got my notes here just to show. There's an SA rule that if you purchase if any owner in SA purchases a higher grade dog interstate, to encourage dogs to come to Adelaide, it drops back to a maiden.
Serious?
Grade 5.
So you can get a dog that's raised in the cup.
I don't know, we might try and buy Hooked on Scotch. No, just kidding. But you can get
so bring him back in a grade 5 and then win a grade 5 at every track in South Australia.
Yes. So, and this encourages, because and he was saying, because the pool of dogs in SAs and the prize money we race for is a lot less than interstate, they encourage owners to buy interstate, and they can buy grade 4, grade 3, bring them to SA, grade 5 across the board. Grade 5 means you can win a grade 5 at every distance at every track. Right, so in horse terms, you can win at Globe, Pirrie, Strath, Kapunda in a CO, right, over 1,800 or 1,600 or 2,000, the middle and long distance. So there's 3 distances mainly at every track, and there's 6 tracks in SA. So a dog can win, that's 18, but you can win, some don't handle distances, you can win 12 to 15 maidens. Now that's worth, some of them might only be $300 or $400 to the winner, but that's worth $15,000 to a dog or to an owner. It's good money.
It is.
And I tell you what, I didn't realise that before talking to Benny on this. It's an amazing initiative, and I think it's something that's, you know, I don't know how you do it in harness racing terms, but it's, I full credit to Greyhound Racing SA.
Yeah, well, you know, apart from their prize money is not super when you compare it into the state, but it's on a par on the main night on Thursday, and it's on a par with some of our $2,500–3,000 races at Globe for a horse.
Talking about that, so this dog we bought, won't mention any names, we'll build the hype up till after Christmas, you know, we'll let it go, but proud owner, you could say, I'm in the camp now, but he's got it set for you know, he's talking about a heat final series in the new year, grade 5 of course, and it's a grade 5, $2,500 to the winner for the heat, $8,000 to the winner of the final. And you only take one penalty. If you win both, now hopefully cross our fingers, but I'm saying for that person lucky enough, if they were to win both, $10,500 they bank, and they do one grade 5 of that distance at Angle Park.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, so Benny will be on the show next week, and we'll talk a little bit more about this to him, because you know the G6 they've done here, now they've done the you know, this sort of initiative. I don't know how long it's been going, but full credit Greyhound Racing SA.
Yeah, too right.
In the new year, I wouldn't mind getting someone on from Greyhound Racing SA and just talk about it's certainly a sport going forward in leaps and bounds. But also on Friday night, there's 2 other races that I'm quite intrigued about.
You got a tip in the cup first, mate?
Yeah, no, I won't. I can. Oh, I shouldn't, but Hooked on Scotch, you know. But I'll try not to get it beat like Cotton.
I think the 3 will beat it, mate.
The 3, Whiskey Rye.
Think Whiskey Rye can win?
Yeah, that was coming out of the Adelaide Cup form.
Yep.
You're going with that, okay. I think Claire tipped that. That was one of hers.
Did she?
Yeah, in the Adelaide Cup. But anyway, 2 other races on Friday night at Sandown Park. So we've got a match race between Feral Frankie, it sounds like you, and Sinachi. Sounds like me, a bit more classy. Feral Frankie $1.80 and Sinachi $2. So that'll be interesting when they let them slip and take each other on. So
they're both very quick early too. So.
Yeah, look forward to that. On the same program as the Group 1 for the Stayers. So we've got the Boom Down, so Benny's tipped me Boom Down out of box 1. It is a $3.30 favourite, so don't value there, Benny, just tipping the favourites, but that's all right. But Tornado Tears, third line of betting at $5, so, you know, might have just be on the way down, but you never rule out a champion at $5.
No, that's right, it's a good price, isn't it?
So certainly some good races there on Friday to watch, but probably just in local news, there's an interesting one coming up later in November, and there's a Border Challenge Series, which is another good initiative by Greyhound Racing SA. We'll talk to Benny, see if he's got any set by that, but we might even try and get this Sean Matheson on, the racing manager. I took this out of their Kennel Capers magazine. Okay. So Border Challenge Series is Mount Gambier versus Warrnambool, so quite an interesting series there. $1,550 heats run at Mount Gambier over the 5-12 on the 24th of November, and then there's Warrnambool heats to be run a week later or 4 days later on the 28th of November, and then there's a final at Warrnambool for $4,000 to the winner on Thursday the 5th of December. So you know, that's
very good.
Yeah, so those heats would have been run. The final goes around next week, so we'll bring the replay of that as well. But it's a good little, you know, they've had the state of origin, and then this is for the country dogs as well. So we look.
No, they keep trying, and Greyhounds, no question.
Great initiative like that. But let's get into some dogs to follow, apart from the one I've bought. But we won't mention that one until January 1st. That'll be a New Year's Eve announcement, but you might never be seen either. But dogs to follow, thanks to Garrard's Horse and Hound. Let's get into it. Right, our first one, our RPC's very own Benny Rawlings has purchased one of these that we talk about, a bit higher grade dog. So he's given us one to follow. It goes around on Thursday night, so the show will go to air the day after. But he said one to watch certainly over the 600 to 700 metres over the next few weeks is 2 times twice. He'll get better as he steps up in distance, so follow him closely.
Benny named that, you reckon?
No, he bought it from Interstate. It's had some runs Interstate, but there might be a reason he bought it. We'll have to ask him. But hopefully we're talking about is a run of the week next week for Benny, but his team's certainly up and about. I'm not sure if there's up and about, but Alicante Boucher's gone amiss, I've heard as well.
Oh, is it?
Unfortunately, twinged to back muscle, but he's going to do everything he can to rehab her back through to racing, and we hope, we keep our fingers crossed. She's been a very good bitch to that, to the stable, the barn, the kennel, to the family in general as well. So our run of the week, thanks to our Murder Station. Our run of the week now, we'll take a look at the replay here last Thursday at Angle Park at 1 over the 600. Firetail for Lauren Harris. Just take a look at the replay now. Cops trouble early, very impressive winner.
And away, and slowly out was Flying Dutchie. Very good speed. Firetail going with it, a Rapsag miss. They go to the first bend. Firetail drop back quickly and railing up. Cuddles Lee found the lead. Cuddles Lee leads to the back. Alinga Jess quickly to second. Then a Rapsag miss from Firetail. Then Pandora's Comet from Spring Glass. Then Flying Dutchie and Aston Sigrid off the back. Cuddles Lee led. Alinga Jess a length away. Then a Rapsag miss. Firetail. Cuddles Lee still the leader. Running on late. Firetail. Cuddles Lee in front. Oh, might have just held on from Firetail, who put a big dive in right on the peg. Then Alinga Jess, a Rapsag miss.
Good winner there, Firetail.
Osgood didn't have any right to win that, that's for sure.
It's a dog with plenty of improvement still to come, and certainly one to follow there. So we thank Benny for supplying us those week in, week out, even when he can't join us on the show. But he'll be on next week. He said he's starting to, he's starting to be a home team player as well. When we play at Gawler, he's got the home shorts on. He's available. when we're down in the cold, wintry, Adelaide, city of Adelaide. No, we shouldn't say that. He's been very good.
The only travel we've got is Liz, who does our.
Oh, what? So me travelling from Gawler to...
You don't count.
Don't count? Okay, yeah, that's right, because you got me a private jet. A helicopter that gets me week in, week out. No, so Benny will join us on the show next week.
Yep.
And big show next week.
And I will drop the name of your dog.
No, you cannot. No,
Fluffy, isn't it?
Fluffy. You cannot. I've been told. Benny's told me not allowed to drop it. He likes it, but he cannot drop it.
Fair enough.
Fluffy. Good story about that, actually. Let me tell you that story quickly.
All right.
There's a funny story behind the dog Fluffy, right? I won't mention any names, but my man in Victoria, the Reskin Sable. say what it's like. Okay, there's a story going around a couple of years ago now. He set up a Bet365 account in the name of Fluffy Ainsworth, right? And he liked this horse that they sort of backed the night before. Not him necessarily, but it was one they liked at odds. He never got the money. It won. I think the line come back. See us in court, Fluffy. He put it on his dog side. So we'll have to argue about the real story. I still remember this was years ago. He told me absolute.
I wonder if Pump Club would have paid out.
We might have to ask Jason.
Yeah.
Jason, will you pay it on dog's name? No. Pay it on anyone. So, but that was quite. I'm in a group chat and I told some mates this story, and my name on there's Fluffy Ainsworth in name of that the fake account that I was trying to set up. They said, "Can you produce the ID of Fluffy Ainsworth?" But quite a good story. Anyway, but. Been a good show, Rocky.
Been good.
We've got one more show to go before the Christmas break. We'll be at the Gawler Jockey Club next week after the races, and we certainly look forward to wrapping up the year. That'll be episode 13.
Yep.
We've got some exciting announcements for not only the 3 clubs, we'll talk about them in Gawler, but the show next year. We're going to roll out a bit of a new format, some new segments that we look forward to bringing you. Plenty of SHIT to talk, you know. If we don't know it, we make it up. So,
done that all my life, mate.
Continue to do it. That's what we're good at. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us this week on the chasing segment of Racing, Pacing, Chasing. We've had some great guests on the show earlier tonight in Paul Bashara and Brodie Webster. So if you haven't watched those interviews, jump over onto the other segments and take a look there. But we also must thank Jason Neve for hosting or letting us host the show tonight from the Punt Club office, and they were great supporters as well. So they pay out on humans or pets. Get on board at Punt Club and Jason Neve. Thanks, guys, and we'll be back this time next week.